No.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Zero Interest. This time, we're looking at Death Parade, Episode 5, Death March. So, Casey, I saw the message you sent me before we started recording this. I think I have a feeling where your opinion is going to go this time.
Yeah. This episode could have been done in 5 minutes. But we'll get to that. So, this episode starts with the attendant telling a nice kid story about a little boy that sees a little girl outside playing on a frozen pond. I fucking hit the cord for my camera, so it's tilted. And goes out to play with it, but falls in a hole, and the little girl comes over, and he forgets about being slightly hurt, and is like, yay, hello.
Because the girl has such a bright and happy smile.
Yeah. And then she wakes up, and she's like, wow, I keep having that really weird dream, which she tells Decim, and he's like, that is weird, as he replaces the usual roulette panels with a picture of the little girl from her dream. And she's like, what the fuck's going on with that? And he's like, I don't know. Nona told me to do it, which is the littler albino girl who is in charge-ish, seemingly.
She has suspenders, which she uses to put her arms through. She's got a funny stance. I like it.
She asks when the next guest will be there, and he's like, soon, and gets there, and he's like, okay, that's weird. She's like, what's weird? And then the two guests show up. One of them is a douchebag dude who's a bit on the chunky side, and one's a little kid, and the big one immediately starts pushing the kid around.
Everyone's like, hey, I think I've been here before. I think I've seen you before. You know, to Decim.
To make this very brief, because it's entirely pointless, the big one starts acting up and tries to hold the kid hostage, and Decim stops him, and the attendant goes to help the little kid, but falls asleep, and the little kid is up, and he's like, Decim, what the fuck's going on, and shit, and it turns out he's another attendant by the name of something, I forget, I don't really care.
Ginty.
Sure. And then Decim explains the backstory of the attendant, that she was a human, that remembered that she was dead immediately, so couldn't be judged properly, so they wiped her memories entirely, so they could judge her over a longer period, so that, you know, they could get an accurate judgment, because they couldn't do it with her remembering she was dead. And in the pursuit of that, they had her assist Decim with judgments, which Ginty has a problem with, to the point of starting a fight, which is very pretty but very pointless. And then Nona, who had been playing Solar 9 Ball, which I really like the concept of. I also appreciate Pluto's inclusion in that.
Yeah, she'd been playing it with this one person who I believe his name is Oculus.
Yeah, who is alluded to being some sort of higher authority, or just omniscient.
He's the
to
boss.
The very least, yeah. He keeps telling her, you need to find a way to unwind or something. And she's like, no, I gotta keep winning and stuff and doing things right, and that's important. And she shows up and is like, Ginty, fucking shut up and sit down, and also just shut up, basically, and stop wrecking the place for no reason, you colossal asshat. Yeah.
Nobody likes Ginty.
And the elevator guy's there and doesn't really do much. And then Nona talks to Decim and explains why he was a dumbass for not realizing the whole judgment of this episode was a complete sham. And then they leave, and Decim takes the attendant back to her room to sleep. And she has a continuation of her dream where the little boy and little girl play, even though she's deaf. The little boy demonstrates what he wants to do by playing around, and she joins, and everything's happy, and he tells his mum later. And his mum tells the kid that the girl's name was Chayo, I want to say it was.
Chavo.
Chavo. Sure. And yeah, those parts were interesting. The story of the little boy and the little girl, that was interesting. The switching of the roulette wheel, that made sense. Yep, if they're trying to get the judgment. The rest of it wasn't really necessary at all. Like, not at all.
So, here's the thing. I did not remember anything in this episode when I went back to review it, because this episode is not very memorable.
It's because nothing happens in it. It's basically 100% exposition.
Yeah, it is. It establishes, like, I know why this episode exists, because it establishes Ginty, who will be giving the next judgment in the next episode, because we're going to be moving away from Dekim for a bit, just for one episode. It establishes Oculus, who is known as Boss, and the fact that they always play games. But the rest of this episode isn't entirely necessary.
Yep. I'd argue they didn't really need to introduce Ginty and could have just said, okay, we're going to move over to someone else doing judgments for now. And
That's a fair point.
Just have a little introduction with, like, Dekim and Ginty interacting and having a little bit of animosity, and then just switches over to Ginty doing another judgment. Mm-hmm. That would have been fine.
Yeah, fair point. I'm just saying that seems to be the intent, is to set up things about this setting. And I feel like you're doing this in, you should try to blend this in with the regular, like, anthological stories, rather than devote an episode to it.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
That is relevant to judging this episode. Is there going to be a big overarching plot line, aside from the attendant being judged eventually?
There is one, in a sense. Yeah, there is an overarching plot line that revolves around Nona, Oculus, and Dekim himself.
Okay, sure. I have issues with that alone. That I don't care about that at all in any way. I don't. Like, the anthology stuff is the reason I was liking the show. I don't care about this extraneous stuff that was literally just there as a basis for creating this anthology of stories. I don't care. So I was never going to like this episode.
Yeah.
And whenever they spend extensive amounts of time on this, I'm just not going to like the episode.
Mm. And with this show in particular, I feel like the author or the mangaka or whoever made this show, I don't know if it was originally a manga or not, I feel like that person wanted to do an anthology, but then they really fell in love with their own setting they were making and wanted to try to flesh that out. But I feel like, it's okay to have just an anthology, but not a lot of people are willing to commit to that.
Yeah, I mean, okay, Death is an entertainment center of sorts. Okay, that's novel, but he hasn't really done much with it, aside from fill it with some very flat stock characters. There's the emotionless guy, there's the angry guy, there's the cheerful one that just makes jokes at everyone's expense, and then there's the bossy one that's short because, that's a joke, I guess.
You remember that I dropped this show halfway through?
I do.
And I only picked it up for the second half because it won the little poll we were doing in our Discord. And I like the second half a lot. But now I remember why I dropped the show originally. Because I think I was bored of a lot of the extraneous stuff they were throwing in.
It's kind of disappointing, but if they get back to the anthology stuff, I will not care by that point.
They're jumping right back into it next episode with a fun one. So,
Yeah. So, this one was a dud, but that's fine. It will get back to the stuff I enjoy. So, okay.
I feel like with this show, it's either, man, this episode was great that they did the anthology stuff, or, man, this show was bad that they didn't do the anthology stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like the show had a good concept and then decided to just, every couple of episodes, decide, we don't really care about the good concept. Let's just meander around for an entire episode and not really do anything.
There's a few things I will mention. The attendant, when she looks in her closet, there is a dress or something that she does not remember being there. That will come in. That will be important later.
Okay.
And
there was also the Skullgirl in the observatory kind of room.
So there's a section where basically they edit down the memories to give the condensed versions to the arbiters. And you have like observers and people who send the memories in, and lots of other jobs in this place.
And she complains that, well, the information people are getting kind of annoyed because of all the dying and stuff that we got to sort through. So, like 7,000 people an hour. I don't know whether that's accurate to real world statistics, but it sounds about right. So, yeah.
But, yeah, this wasn't exactly, like, they did this is the first time in the show they do a fight scene, which is entirely pointless because, yeah, Dekim controls, like, strings and Ginty controls water, I guess.
Kind of. Bubbles,
but
yeah.
But their powers are so nebulous and undefined that we already know they're in the afterlife, essentially. So there's
None
no
of this
point.
matters, yeah.
Yeah, there's no point to it. It's eye candy, and I feel like it's trying to get in other demographics to be like, hey, keep watching this because there's cool stuff like this.
Yep.
Rather than trying to tell a good story. And that's kind of how I feel about a lot of the extraneous stuff like that.
So yeah, this was disappointing, but I'm sure they'll get back to the good stuff. Apparently next episode, so yay.
Mm-hmm. Yay! Next one is they're gonna play Twister.
Okay.
It gets really funny because it's Twister. Death Game Twister.
You want to close this out then?
Yeah. So thank you all for watching. We'll see you guys next week with Death Parade Episode 6. I believe this, Episode 6... Well, I like Episode 6. It was after that I just eventually kind of dropped off. So, originally. So, later, everyone.